Well, tell me, mama, what's going on? Tell me, darling, what's going on?
Welcome back, everybody. The Bacon and Egg Show, episode 74. We'll zoom in on that bacon there in high definition. February 13th, 2022. Happy Valentine's Day tomorrow, everybody. And oh yeah, there's a big football game being played today. I don't know if I can say the actual name for like marketing purposes, but make sure to tune into the big game.
Make sure to turn into the big game tonight.
A bowl that is super.
It is, yeah.
We'll hit on that. Do you want to start there? Or do you want to hit on that a little bit later?
Yeah, no, let's get into that. Let's do a cup of coffee. Let's talk about the bowl that is super. You know, I wonder if on YouTube, if like they're going through, and if you actually say Super Bowl, like if they're like gonna, oh my God, we're canceled. Sorry guys, see you next time. Bye.
Yeah, Goodell like reaches out. It's like you have to pay Domino's this much money or something to like be able to say.
Yeah, let's start there, man.
Yeah. What do you think? How are you feeling about this game? I'm kind of looking forward to this one.
And yeah, you know, I'm not as fellow supporters, sometimes supporters of a team in Houston. You know, we don't have a dog in this fight, but I got to tell you, like this playoff run for the NFL, just in general, this has been some of the most enjoyable football to watch from an outsider's perspective. And I think that's leading up to what should be a really, really great game. Now, I hope it's not a dud, like we get all these great games. And, you know, like there's always that fear. But with the amount of talent that's going to be on the field between the Rams and the Bengals here, like the Rams are built for this moment. They're built for, they traded away all their first round draft picks. They signed guys that nobody else wanted, or the guys that forced their way out of a bad spot, like Odell Beckham and Cleveland. And that's somebody that, you know, you look at the first half of his season this year and it's like, man, is Odell washed? And then it's like, oh no, I forgot who's his quarterback right now.
Just man. Cleveland.
It's Cleveland and
Baker Mayfield effect.
Baker touchdown maker. But I'm thinking this is going to be a great one. And you and I have a mutual admiration for our guy Joseph Football. Joey Burr, because he's so damn cold. Joe Burrow, man. Like I'm
big fan of Sweet Joe.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping that the Bengals pull this off, but I think the Rams are actually going to be the team that come away with this trophy. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, it's a head and the heart one. It's the like is cool as a story would, you know, of the Bengals going on this run to win a Super Bowl after just being such a decrepit dead franchise for so many years, like to just kind of like just turn it around so quickly. And it just shows like what can happen in the NFL if like you draft the right guy, you hire the right coach, you can turn it around quickly. And it goes to say, like when people are like, oh, you know, in the NFL you got to give these coaches time to build it out. No, you don't. And it's really turning into the NFL, similar to like when we watch the Premier League, you know, international soccer and stuff like this, like how quickly coaches get churned through. You'll fire a coach in the middle of a season without any issue, and you hire one on and it turns around. I think we're starting to see that almost a little bit in the NFL with like, if you don't have it, if it's not rolling in year 2, you probably don't have the right guy. Like, so why not make the change?
So if you don't see some sort of, like, you know, the Texans, which again, this is a dumpster fire of an organization right now, and this might be a bad example, but they whatever that front office saw in Culley, in David Culley, after 1 year, it wasn't what they wanted, and they axed him. They had him on a 4-year deal, and they just, okay, we're going to move in a different direction. And I think that's we're going to see more. I think the Bengals, I think this is still a quarterback-driven league. You know, like Joey Burrow.
That's not changing anytime soon.
No, Joe Burrow.
It's going to become more so.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Joe Burrow is that dude. And if you draft the right quarterback, Buffalo with Josh Allen, Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, you put the right guy in
The
the right
Texans with
spot.
Davis Mills.
Yeah. Jeez. I mean, we could hope.
Sorry.
I mean, it's
The General Mills.
General Mills, yeah. But no, that's. I mean, if you put the right guy in the right quarterback in the right situation, it's gonna pay dividends, and that's why these NFL teams are always looking for the next quarterback, and why you see them reaching in drafts for quarterbacks. And because if you find the guy, it's going to take you places. And I think that the Bengals have outplayed themselves, outplayed their talent, outplayed their coaching actually too this year. Do I hope the Bengals win? Yeah. Would I put my own money against Joe Burrow right now? Absolutely not. But I just have a feeling that the Rams are going to find a way to do this. I think Stafford, pardon me, I think Stafford is going to throw some interceptions this game. I think that there's going to be some turnovers on both sides. I don't know that Burrow's going to turn the ball over, but I feel like, like the Rams are going to find a way to force a fumble, maybe a strip sack or something like that, because I think Burrow's going to take care of the ball through the air. But I feel like we're going to see some turnovers this game, maybe some special teams miscues. Like it's going to be one of those games where it's not going to go exactly like it went leading up for both of these squads, where they played relatively clean football all the way up to the Super Bowl. But I do think the Rams will probably come out ahead here. Do they cover? This is like a 4.5 point line, depending on where you're looking. I see some places where a lot of money's been coming in on the Bengals, and it's kind of down to like 3 in that hook, 3.5.
Yeah.
I do think that this is a really close game that could come down to like this. So many games have come down to field goals this year in the playoffs, and I do think it could be that type of a game. But I don't know, man. If I had to pick, I think I'm gonna take the Rams to win it outright. But I can't touch that line I'm not touching that line.
Yeah.
Just not.
As much as I want the Bengals to complete their journey of doing this for Harambe, rallying around the memory of Harambe and doing this for Cincinnati, like I think the Rams are I think they got too much power. I think they just have better personnel across the board. I think they're a deeper team. McVay's been there before with them, but we've also seen, we've kind of been seeing this with McVay in the postseason though. There's kind of a different approach with his teams in the postseason that's it's a little apprehensive almost. Like he almost gets a little too conservative in certain spots, tries to be a little too cute and a little too like, where in the offseason, like McVay, he'll just kind of let it loose. And if they do that, I think the Rams will be fine. But yeah, I just think it's going to be interesting to see, because we've talked about Stafford, the postseason experience and all those kinds of things. I mean, he's done well through all this, but like, is this stage going to be something that is experienced as Matt Stafford is? Like, is this? It's kind of weird to say for a guy that's been in the league as long as he has. Like, is this stage going to be a little too big? But he's got enough pros around him over there. I mean, you've got Kupp, who's just about as reliable as, I don't even like calling him reliable. I mean, he's the best receiver in football.
Easily.
But then you've also got Odell on the other side. They've got weapons, and unless, like you said, if Stafford just doesn't completely gas can it and turn into, then I think the Rams will be fine. But I mean, God, I just think it'd be a great story for Cincinnati.
Yeah, and I mean, and that Cincinnati offensive line has played well enough, and Burrow makes good decisions, and he reads the blitzes, and he makes things happen. But
Aaron Donald and Von Miller are different.
If you're going to double team Aaron Donald, you leave Von Miller open. You leave Von Miller in one-on-one. Leonard Floyd. Like there's so many guys that. Yeah, who are you going to block? And Burrow's a good enough decision maker to get that ball out and to see that. That's why I almost feel like, because I do think there'll be some turnovers on both sides for both teams coming out of this one. And it's like these are two young head coaches too. Like this is, McVay's second time being in the Super Bowl, but we forget that he's a young guy, and Zach Taylor, the Bengals coach, is 38. Like he's is young. Like, these are young guys. And when this stage hits, it doesn't matter if you've been there before or not. And Taylor was on McVay's staff when the Rams went to the Super Bowl last. So, I mean, like, he's been in a big game, not as a head coach, but, on a staff.
That
And,
experience counts for something.
Yeah,
You've seen how the walkthroughs work. You've seen
the
how the media stuff
preparation.
works. You've been
Yeah.
through all that. And that's what,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great point. If you don't have that kind of experience of seeing what the 2-week, gauntlet of media and all those different responsibilities that you have to take care of, like, if you haven't seen that before, you don't know, like, kind of what you're getting yourself into, how to pace the team.
Yeah.
Because you could go in super energetic into the first week of practice, blah, 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 all that stuff. But like, I think I just hope it's entertaining as the rest of these playoffs have been. Like you hit it off with, like, these playoffs have been incredible, and the games just seem to be getting better and better as the stakes get higher. And we say all that, and the Rams will win by 30.
Right. I just feel like we're headed for a letdown.
So that's all I'm hoping for, really.
Man.
I'm the true, like, what was it, Rob Lowe a few years ago that just was in the stands, like, oh, there's Fox TV star Rob Lowe with the NFL logo on the hat.
Right.
Just give me a good game. Entertain me today.
Yeah.
Is that too much to ask?
Yeah. Well,
so
that depends on who you're asking. But I think this will be good, and I think this will be a good one. And half the country's going to watch it, and the other half are going to watch NCIS or whatever. So I mean, who cares? It's
a Masked Singer or something.
Yeah, man. Yeah, one of those real Big Brother, something like that. We're giving all these. I just named like CBS shows for some reason. I guess because I know that
company man
free at this point, but yeah, exactly. So,
brand loyalty over here.
Yeah, well, yeah. So, all right, man. Well, who do you got? Are you gonna take the Rams? Like, if
I'm making a pick, I'm going with the Rams. I
think, yeah. I hope the next time we talk, we're celebrating a Joe Burrow Super Bowl MVP. Honestly, I would love to see that. But yeah, hoping for a good game, man. All right, let's move on to some Texas football real quick. Hey, man, is Texas closer to being back this week than the last time we talked?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah.
The offensive line is definitely looking like it's going to be better in the near future. So, yeah, I mean, we got the Devin Campbell commitment, as we talked about. That was kind of, hanging out there as it was, being projected. You can pretty much, we were penciling him in as being part of this class. I think a lot of the experts were as well, but you never know until it's actually announced and it's finished. And it is. So Devin Campbell's in this class, which really rounds out. I can't think of a better offensive line haul that Texas has had. Like, I just can't remember one. There might have been one in 2000, 2001 or something. Back, those lines that, but even though I feel like those lines were even like the national championship winning offensive line was like spread out over multiple recruiting classes. But to bring this kind of talent in one class after a 5-7 season, is pretty damn impressive. However you want to cut it. You want to say the name, image, and likeness stuff. You want to, whatever kind of credit you want to put on it, you still have to close the job, especially when all these other programs are doing essentially the same things with name, image, and likeness. It's a big pull. I mean, massive haul for Kyle Flood and this recruiting class. I mean, obviously we're not going to see some of these guys right out of the gate, but you're at least starting to build that depth. You're building a foundation of where, I mean, how many years now have we talked about, like, oh, well, this line looks okay, but God, if one guy goes out, you got to shuffle, you have to start moving pieces. That's when the depth really gets tested, the experience gets tested, and then who knows what, all bets are off at that point. And we've seen that play out. But when you start to stack talent like this, however you do it, recruit, high school recruiting, transfer portal, however you do it, you start to stack talent, you're future proofing yourself, basically, and
I think
exciting.
I think that's a great way to put it. And, like Saban, they've asked Saban about like losing players to attrition or losing players to injury or whatever it is. And his quote was something along the lines of, you know, we just shit out another player.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that's where Texas is trying to be, where if somebody gets hurt, well, just grab that guy off the sideline and plug him in there and let's roll. Like this can't stop because somebody gets hurt or because, you know, somebody's got their dauber down about something and isn't playing well right now. Or it's like, no, you go and you do the job and let's keep this thing going. You know, and to me, the 7 offensive linemen that were signed in this class, that's the sort of depth. And it's not like, these aren't like, oh, well, you know, we needed to take some extra offensive linemen, so we took some 2-star guys from Podunk,
No.
you know, places that Craig Way can give you directions to and back roads and stuff like that. Like these are guys that all 7 of them, which, you know, if you do the math, they ain't all playing at once, but all 7 of these guys at some point they're expecting to come in and contribute to this football program, and not in a you know, walk-on sense, not in a no, like these guys all want to play. And that iron sharpens iron, that you're going to see those guys in practice going every day, playing hard, trying to make each other better. And the DJ Campbell making that official, you know, solidified Kyle Flood as being the Big 12 recruiter of the year. Best, you know, like that's a big deal, especially like the point that you made earlier about coming off that 5-7 season. It didn't cost Coach Sark the momentum that he has started to build in terms of these high school kids buying in to what he's bringing to the table.
Right.
And that was key for me. And we were worried about that, or I was, in terms of, okay, like he knows the direction he wants to take this program. And you can kind of see bits and pieces last year where he wants to go. Can you continue to stack, like you said, stack recruiting class on top of recruiting class on top of recruiting class, but it's not that Tom Herman didn't recruit. It's not that Charlie Strong didn't necessarily recruit, but once they got on here, what do you do with those recruiting classes that you stack up and stack up and stack up? And, you know, I feel like now more than ever, Texas has the staff and the developers and, like, you know, the Gary Patterson hire to work behind the scenes. Like, this is starting to look like an actual program that is going to keep up with the Joneses in college football, the Alabamas, the Georgias, the programs that have layers and layers and layers of coaches and what's the word, that advisors, or whatever you want to put it, you know, special advisor to the head coach. This is starting to look like that. This is starting to look
Right.
like a program in 2022, as opposed to when Mac left and he had sort of half-assed it his last 3 or 4 years. And then you get Charlie Strong in here, who didn't believe in social media, which, even though he might have been right about it being the downfall of our society, that's where these players live.
Yeah, he's completely out of touch with modern society. I mean,
Right.
if you want to
So,
call it
yeah.
that. Like,
Yeah. So, I mean, and then you get Tom Herman, who couldn't get out of his own way. And now it seems like you have a coach that understands what it takes to be successful in 2022 in the world of college football. And that's the encouraging thing to me, Kerry, is that I feel like we finally see a program that is trying to catch up to the times, not just with the type of talent that they're recruiting, but how they're managing a football program in general. And that, to me, as a Texas fan, is what I feel good about. Not just the recruiting class, which it was a top 5 class, great class, but that I feel like this program is actually coming into the 21st century.
well,
now, you know?
yeah. And with that comes, like, kind of some fundamental changes in how recruiting happens, right? Like, it's, you know, I think you could almost look at previous coaching staffs, and this is, you know, obviously the transfer portal changes this a little bit, which is kind of where I'm going. But, like, you know, people get sometimes so wound up about the numbers. Oh, you recruited X amount of offensive linemen, you brought in this many guys. You know, for one, competition's a great thing. I think previous coaching staffs were a little too afraid of players having competition once they got on campus. So that's red flag number one. The other side of it is, you mentioned, okay, bring in 7 guys. Only, 5 are actually going to start at any given time if they all do. Well, what about the other 2? Well, they can transfer. If they, that's the thing. If they want to go play somewhere, they can hit the portal. And likewise, Texas can hit the portal for experience every single year to try to fill any gaps that may come up. And that's what Sarkisian is doing such a good job at. It's not just the high school recruiting, it's monitoring the portal. There's actually a trust factor where you go, okay, well, let's say only 3 of these guys hit. Well, okay, hit the portal and find some experience to plug in there. That's where you could say that with quarterbacks, whatever these positions are. People, I feel there's so much, getting behind like, oh, the numbers aren't going to work. The numbers aren't going to work. They're going to make the numbers work. They're going to make the numbers work. And
what are you concerned about? Like you said, get the guys on campus. They're not all going to work out. We've seen it. Like they're not all going to work out, period. End of story. We can't expect all of these guys, even the 4-star guys, the 5-star guys, we've seen them not pan out at the collegiate level across the country, but specifically at Texas over the last decade or so, where these guys get here, and whether it's a lack of development, a lack of being able to analyze their skill sets coming in and understand like, okay, this is what they're going to bring to the table. And then when you get them on campus, they just don't have that in them. Whatever the reason is, man, it's like, you're going to miss on these. And that's what college recruiting is all about. You're going to miss. And how do you fill in those gaps like that, right?
Even you might not even necessarily miss on some of them. I mean, look at all the top tier programs around the country have really good players transfer out of their program every year. Whether that's a Quinn Ewers transferring out of Ohio State because, well, that quarterback job is locked up for a while. Doesn't mean Ewers is bad, but come on. I mean, I don't think anybody can say that he was bad. It's just that's how Ohio State is stacked depth at that level. I mean, Oklahoma's had how many running backs transfer out over the years? What was it? Trey Sermon leaves Oklahoma and goes to Ohio State. Now he's in the league. It's not that he wasn't bad at Oklahoma, but you keep stacking up talent. I'm just, how many examples can we think of? I mean, God, Jalen Hurts from Alabama to Oklahoma to the NFL. That's just how you're going to lose your job or you're not going to win it in the first place. It doesn't mean you're a bad player. Hopefully it means that the program's in a good enough place to where you can be a really good offensive lineman or whatever, and you're just not cracking the lineup because the other guys are that good. And there's going to be people that go, oh, well, why is he leaving? Well, sometimes that's not a bad thing. I know we want all these guys to work out. They commit to Texas because they want to go to Texas. We want them all to work out. We want them all to have great careers at Texas. But if the Horns are winning football games and the talent is stacked, they're just going to leave. And I think that's something that I say like, people need to get used to, but it's just the adjustment of how college football works now. It's just, it used to be a rarity to have players transfer out of a program. That's not going to be the case anymore. It's just.
Yeah, this is the times that we're living in. And even more so now, like people need to have a better understanding about the fact that this is a business and players are making business decisions, whether it's when you're being recruited by, and again, like
every single one of these guys thinks they're going to make it to the NFL.
All of them do. But then you see, you have a program like Texas A&M, for example, that's the #1 class in the country. Is some of that due to, name, image, and likeness deals? Is there a lot of money going around College Station right now? Like part of it?
Sure.
Is Jimbo a good recruiter? Yeah. But there are going to be guys in that class that aren't there for very long, like you said, because even though like they're part of this big class, there's attrition. They're going to leave because it's just not going to work out for them in that moment. Texas is finally throwing their weight around in terms of money, in terms of like the way that they should have been doing this whole time. But now that everything is sort of on the up and up, and it's like, well, why shouldn't Texas always be at the top of these recruiting rankings for a number of reasons? And we're gonna see that. We're gonna see these same teams at the top, just like always. Nothing is really gonna change that much. You know, they might shuffle. You know, the
No,
1 through 10
it's
might
gonna be the
shuffle a little
same
bit,
old, I mean,
but we're gonna see that, you know, that part of it's not gonna change. But what people need to understand now more than ever is that this is a business. It's treated like a business. Don't get butthurt because a couple of guys are transferring out. Don't this is business, and these players are treating it now more than ever like a business, and they should treat it like a business. And like you said, they all think they're going to play in the pros, and some of them will, most of them won't. But they're trying to do their best to get to that end
right.
goal. And you just got to treat it like that. And to get 7 offensive linemen in this class, you know,
It's huge.
if you get one of them that plays, that has a long NFL career, you know, that's on average, you know, all these guys are going to be, they might be good college players, but they're not all going to be great, you know, NFL players, but they all think they are. So how do you, again, it comes back to, for me, long story short on this one, Kerry, for me, it comes back to getting them on campus, building depth, and developing that talent. There's going to be attrition, but what do you do with them when they're on campus? We haven't seen that development since the early 2000s, you know, like the mid 2000s, like when you're winning national championships, and then you get back there a few years later, and then there's just this drop off. We haven't seen it, I'd say, since the late 2000s, I guess. We haven't seen it, the development, the consistent development. And you have to feel like, with the way that Steve Sarkisian is organizing this program, that is just as important now as getting these guys on campus. It's not just, okay, we're going to recruit well and then see what happens. I don't feel like that anymore, man. You know,
That's what's going to be so crucial about this upcoming season, is that season 1, you can go 5-7 and still pitch the big picture. This is what we're trying to build. This is where it's going. Like, sure, 5-7, not my players. Things didn't really break the way that we wanted to. We're building this thing. Look at what we're doing. Year 2, that starts to fade. You know, these are going to be more of his players now. This is going to be his quarterback. This is going to be, you know, a defense that's got Gary Patterson advising over it now. You go 7-5 this coming season. Is that an improvement? Sure. Is that enough to get an Arch Manning, or, you know, make this, is it enough to finish it as a top 5 class in the 23 rankings? I don't know. That's where it starts to, just like we talked about a little bit earlier with the NFL stuff and coaching changes, it's kind of like you start to figure out pretty quickly if this thing is going to flip or not. And that's what this season's going to be all about. I think you can only pitch the vision for so long before you have to start producing. And not to say that Sark's not. I think that with the way that, as we mentioned, the way that he's hit the portal, the way that they're trying to stack some depth, is addressing that. So, but I mean, it's all about wins. You got to start winning at some point.
You know, Zach Taylor, to put a bow on this and tie it back into the Super Bowl talk, Zach Taylor, this is his 3rd season as the head coach of the Bengals. They stuck with him because I feel like they saw something. You get your quarterback in, and they gave him a chance. He got his quarterback. Burrow was hurt last year. They gave him another chance. They gave him a chance this year to make a run at it with his quarterback that he wanted. They stuck with him, and it's worked.
Yeah.
If you know that you see something that you like, you can hold on to that coach. But if you're Charlie Strong, which I don't have a problem with Charlie Strong, but he wasn't ever really going to be a great head coach at the University of Texas for reasons that we've already discussed. We saw it. Tom Herman comes in, it's the same thing. It's like, you're not made for this job. If you like what you see and you're willing to stick with the coach, give him that leash. If not, you cut him loose. I'm not saying you fire Steve Sarkisian if he goes 7-5 next season, but he understands that this is a win now moment.
Right.
He gets it, and the rest of the staff does too, and they're telling their players that every day. This is not win in 3 years. We're going to start to
Exactly.
win now, and that's the plan. And we'll see how it goes, man. I'm hoping for a good turnaround here this season, and this 2022 class has really, kick-started that good feeling in terms of where this program is headed. So looking for good things, and DJ Campbell signing and solidifying that class was sort of the icing on the cake for this one for me. So
Spring ball coming up.
around the corner.
Hope springs eternal. Can't wait to hear all the practice reports and then
Oh God, it might be. Can't wait to hear that it's the best spring practice that Steve Sarkisian's ever been a part of.
ever.
Ever. And,
They're lifting weights and working hard, and
yeah,
they've totally transformed.
the best competition he's ever seen. The most
Yeah.
intense practices. The guys are just feeling good. It's gotta love those spring practice reports.
They've tried a new conditioning approach that seems to be working. It's
Yeah.
I mean,
It's coming. Just get ready for it.
it's coming.
Bookmark
12
this
and
one.
0.
Yeah.
Show me a
Wow.
loss. Oh,
Well,
Bama. Oh,
I was going to say we don't have to go very deep in the schedule for me to point at one, but
that one doesn't count really. It's like an exhibition game.
is that right?
Yeah, it's one of those. It's like one of those preseason like college basketball kind of things, like the Maui Invitational or something. It's kind of like, if you lose, it's just like a preseason tournament kind of thing. It's like it didn't really. It's not going to hurt your resume at all come tournament time, kind of thing, unless you lose to like
Mhm.
Chaminade or something. I don't know.
Well, that's a throwback right there. I love that.
Or
Chaminade upsets. Yeah.
what was that bad? As we get into talking about basketball, talking about bad losses, Radford. Radford.
Let's not go down that road.
No, we shouldn't. We've okay. To get into the Runnin Horns here,
Yeah.
I actually
let's do
feel
it.
pretty confident that Chris Beard's edition of the Runnin Horns would not lose to a Radford or Chaminade. I think we
I'd have to
could,
agree.
which actually now that we met, that makes me feel pretty positive about things. I think this like kind of feels like, oh wow, move past losing to Radford. That's a
It's a low bar to clear,
oh
dude.
God. All right. Well, this maybe makes me feel not so bad about yesterday's loss to Baylor. And you go, oh, okay, well, let's talk about before we get into the Baylor loss. Texas, like coming into yesterday's game, there was the Tennessee win, top 25 team. That was a wild game with the comeback that Tennessee put together. Horns pull out the win. The game in Lubbock, what can you say? It's, the national, congratulations to Tech on their national championship that night. That, was awesome. Good for them. They earned it.
Yeah.
But then, okay, so at that point you're going, all right. We still weren't really, I don't know if you could really describe like how to feel about this team after those games. Cause like, obviously you beat Tennessee, but in the manner that it went down, it was like, are we seeing what we, is it reality in a way? Like it's a win, but God, that, allowing Tennessee back in the game, like it just felt weird. And the Tech thing, all right, well, is this team, they showed up, they put in some fight, but like, a 13-point loss is still a 13-point loss. And Tech was all, I don't think Tech was going to lose that game that night, however you want to pitch it. So with Iowa State coming to town, a team that Texas lost to up in Ames earlier in the season, kind of thought, all right, is this going to be again in this fucking, horrible like run of games here against top opposition, which is, you're going to see what you're all about. Curious how Texas is going to look against them. 22-point win over Iowa State. I mean, that was at that point one of the most impressive wins of the season, probably. I don't think there's any question. Then Kansas comes to town, and I think for all of us, this was like, all right, this is a real kind of show me what this team is all about type game. And they showed up. Huge win. I don't think they've played I don't think they played a better game all season than they did against Kansas. I think that was at least in terms of how we want to see them play.
Bingo.
That looked like the team that we like were hoping to see. They played fast. They played, I mean, that's what we were wanting to see. And get a huge win against Kansas. And you go, okay, well, here we go. Back-to-back games where they're playing with pace. They're playing cohesive. The turnovers are getting cut down. Like, all right, maybe Beard has figured something out here. And then you go to Baylor and just get mocked.
Yeah.
With their best player, arguably one of their best players, going out with that horrific knee injury in the first half. That was what, only 6-7 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
Where are you with this team right now? Because we were talking about it before the show. These past 5 games in this run, starting with the Tennessee game, all against ranked opposition. Very good ranked opposition too. This isn't like fringe top 25 teams. Texas is 3-2 in this run. They've won all their games at home. They go into hostile environments to lose the other 2 against teams that are, I mean, the 2 road losses are teams that, you could argue, Baylor's kind of had some weird games this year, but they're the defending champs. They're, you could say that's a top 5 team. And I think Tech is playing themselves into that kind of top 10-ish, deeper into the top 10 type tier as well. And obviously with the atmosphere and all those things, where are you with this team after, being 3-2 so far in this run, which, was one that we kind of pegged as like, we're going to find out what this team is all about. And they need to find wins somewhere, and they have.
I'm feeling fine about where this team is. You lose a couple of games on the road to top 10 opponents in conference play. Okay, like would you like to see them play better against Baylor? Yeah, I mean, there's still times where that offense just gets so stagnant, and when they get out and run and push the pace, you see what this team could be at times, and then at other times you see them pass the ball around the perimeter until there's 4 seconds left on the shot clock, and then try to it's okay, Wally. You try to
Wally doesn't like it either.
He's like, you gotta play with better pace.
I agree.
But for me, I'm not. I don't. Would you like to see them play better against Baylor? Yeah, the Tech game was a madhouse. Like the environment, with Chris Beard going back to Lubbock for the first time as Texas coach, and Texas Tech Red Raider fans feel like jilted ex-girlfriends that can't let go of the fact that their boyfriend broke up with them and moved on to someone else. And that's how they treated it. And it was a great college basketball environment. I mean, like that's good for the game, honestly. Like,
yeah,
there were some pundits that were making the comments like, it's almost a good thing that there's that much
hate
and vitriol, and because it creates for better environments in college basketball. Ollie, buddy, it's okay. And like that, to me, I don't mind going into Lubbock and losing to a top 10 team. I don't mind going to Baylor and losing to a top 10 team that, like you said, is probably, all things considered, probably really a 2 seed by the time this is all said and done. And we're talking, Baylor and Tech. Those are going to be 2 or 3, a 2 seed or a 3 seed, depending on how their seasons finish. I feel like there's no shame in losing on the road to those teams. What you want to see is a game you're defending your home court, especially against a quality team like Kansas, who's took a couple of tough losses this season, but has also played at a very high level because it's just what that program does. And that Kansas atmosphere, the atmosphere at the Kansas game it felt like big time college basketball. We've talked about that before, about how the cavernous Irwin Center has not necessarily lended itself to being a legit college basketball atmosphere. And that's what it's turned into. Even in the season where they've showed at times that they might not always be able to figure it out. They might have these times where they they just look like they're playing with their feet in molasses, and the other team's not. Like it's. But despite that, the college the big time, college basketball environment is in Austin now, even in the Irwin Center, and it's not just a one-off; it's consistent. And these fans are showing up after these home games and providing that environment, that atmosphere. And as long as Texas can continue to hold home court throughout the rest of this, with got to go on the road to Norman here on Tuesday, then the return trip, Texas Tech coming to Austin next Saturday on the 19th for a 11:30 game, which, that early morning, that's also something that some teams can't really handle. And it's like a team that plays as sluggish at times like Texas does. I worry a little bit about an 11:30 start, getting going early in the morning like that. But
Yeah, but at least that's at home this time, for this one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And that's where, how much is, and Tech's got to play at the same time. You wonder how much of them getting out of the hotel in the morning, doing all that kind of stuff, like affects them on the road. But there's the chance to match the environment. I know they announced this week that like no student will be turned away for the Tech game. If you've got like the big ticket sport pass, you're getting in, and you can sit in the upper deck where they're going to fill in those seats with as many students as possible.
Yeah.
For one, it's a great strategy to keep Tech fans from buying up tickets. And two, it's another, like, you got to match the environment. That's a huge game on Saturday. Huge. Because like you say, going on the road and losing there, that's one thing. Having them come into your house and being able to defend home court and play the way that you have at home is huge. Not to mention Baylor coming to Austin, as well. They still have to make that trip. So yeah, we got to be careful to not overlook this Oklahoma game either. And
that's true.
They're not the best team in the Big 12. Texas put it on them. We were there pretty heavily at the Irwin Center earlier in the season. I don't want to, it's definitely not a trap game. I don't want to call it anything like that, but there is, at least for me, a little bit of looking forward to that Tech game on Saturday and just go, oh, okay, just go up to Norman and take care of business. That's not going to be a friendly environment either.
No.
And both teams have stuff to play for. This isn't an Oklahoma team that's, they're playing for their tournament lives. And so it's the Big 12. If you don't like it, go play intramurals.
Play intramurals, brother. You had 5 guys against Baylor that had 8 points. Andrew Jones led all scorers with 11. They're spreading this around, which I like to see, honestly. But I'd also would I just much rather see like a game against Kansas where like Timmy Allen comes out and has like 25 or 24, and Trey Mitchell had played so well against Kansas, and it's like how do you get these guys to consistently contribute at a high level? It's hard when there's this much talent on one roster, and I get that. There's only one basketball to go around, but I'm just trying to get some consistency out of these guys. Marcus Carr hasn't been that dude for me that I thought he was going to be. And there's still time in terms of a Big 12 tournament. They're going to need Marcus Carr if they're going to have any shot of advancing in March, like even into the second weekend. Like Marcus Carr is going to have to play like the Marcus Carr we thought we were getting out of the transfer portal if Texas is going to be successful even in that first weekend of the tournament. He's going to have to play better.
Absolutely.
And that's sort of that's my if I'm going to point at something after this season and we're looking and we're disappointed with how this finished, I feel like it will be because we didn't get the best version of Marcus Carr at a moment that we needed it the most. So can he find a way to, be that guy that baller, lack of a better way to put it, be the guy you were before you got here. Like, dribble and get 2 guys on you, dish it out, move, penetrate, be aggressive to the basket, force other players to stop you from being that dude. Like, I don't mind if you only score 8 or 10 points if you're
If you're
being
providing
aggressive
elsewhere.
and you're providing in other spots. But these 10 or 12 point games, it feels empty to me right now. It's like an empty 10 or 12 points that you could get from someone else that would be getting those minutes or that, those touches. And
Yep.
you can't get empty minutes out of Marcus Carr anymore at this point in the season. And Chris Beard's got to find a way to unlock that for me. But either way, is there anything else before we move on from basketball? Is there anything else to you that you're sort of hoping to see in this last stretch of games here?
No, we discussed it a little bit before the show today about like the what we're hearing from the team and from the coaching staff after the Baylor game. I haven't heard this kind of talk from the team and coaching staff after a loss like we did yesterday. Beard saying we were like directly, the team was soft. We were soft. And the players echoing that, Courtney Ramey saying, we treated Kansas like our national championship and we weren't ready to go. Like, we got to fix that. And I think it was Marcus Carr that said something along the lines of, there's no more like getting used to playing with each other. Like, it's February. Like, there's no more getting to know each other. Like, we have to put it together. And I think hearing those kinds of things from the players, that's where I'm going to be interested to see what the response in Norman's going to be. Is this going to be a team that is looking, I don't want to say dysfunctional, but is maybe putting a little bit more on their shoulders to try to make it look right? Like, oh, we have to figure out a way to be cohesive, and they kind of force it? Or is this a team that kind of like goes back to what was working, and they come out with an intensity and come out with, the effort that they've been showing most of the season, and go up there and get a good win in Norman? And like, so it's another one game at a time with this group. Like, cause I feel like this could, we've said this so many times this season, cause it's kind of felt like a turning point kind of game in Waco. Had so much positive momentum going in, you get crushed. Now, how do you respond to it? And that's what it can go two ways. They can kind of flounder and falter a little bit heading into this final stretch, kind of feel sorry for themselves and figure, oh, things just aren't kind of working out the way that we hoped it would. Or is this a rallying point where these leaders in this locker room on a very old college basketball team, we hear about it every game now. Oh, here's their average age. It's, where do we like, is this where they, we look at potentially a good tournament run and go, it was after that Baylor game where they put it together. They came together and, use all the cliches, circled the wagons and got it going.
I'll say this before we move on. I think that Chris Beard has done some of his best coaching after these, what we've called sort of turning point games. I think that's where he's earning his money, and he's done some of his best coaching at points in the season where we're like, damn, this could go either way. And then you see him run off a couple of nice wins and play. He brings it all together. He doesn't let the whole ball of yarn unravel. Okay, a little bit unravels. So let's wrap that back up.
Let's fix it back up.
And let's fix it back up. And to his credit, I feel like the Beard's done a really nice job of that this year. So I'm expecting similar results over the next week or so with Oklahoma, and then Tech's going to be ready to play. Like, this is they're going to be ready for the environment, and that's going to be a good one, man. That's going to be, whether it's a sellout because they sold all the tickets actually, or because they just filled it with students, who cares? There's going to be 22,000 people in that arena, whatever the max is. It's going to be full, and it's going to be loud. And Texas has performed for the most part really well at home and defended home court. And I look for that again next weekend against Texas Tech to sort of avenge that loss in Lubbock, which again, you lose to a top 10 team on the road in conference. Okay, you got to defend home court in your conference. You get a couple of away wins, and then you go into the tournament and you roll the dice. And I feel like Texas will continue to defend home court. And you got to see, hopefully when they go up to Lawrence to end the season, you just hope that they can play at a level that's respectable and not, finishing on a low note to end the regular season.
Yeah.
But again, like you look and Chris Beard has been, like you said, Chris Beard has been, or like we were discussing, I should say, he's been coaching well in these moments. They buy into what he's selling. And that to me is the reason that this team could go a little ways in the tournament this year, even though they haven't always looked like that national championship contender, that Elite Eight quality team. Nobody wants to play this Texas team in the Sweet 16. Now, nobody. Period. Nobody wants to play this team in the postseason, and because they all know, these coaches know that at any time, this team can compete with anybody in the country, and especially on a neutral floor. So,
Right.
yeah, leaving it at that, man, I feel like that he'll coach his way out of this again, like he has all season, and we'll, we got some big ones coming up. So, man, let's move on to La Zona Verde. Let's move on to some Austin FC talk, man. What do you got?
Yeah, let's hit it real quick. I think we've seen the final off-season signing happen. Felipe Martins signed. He was with DC United last. Brazilian midfielder, MLS, tons of MLS experience. Saw it in last night's preseason game against Houston. He was showing a lot of leadership, a lot of directing traffic, doing a lot of things, arguing with referees. He's supposed to be one of the biggest shithousers you'll see in MLS in terms of he'll definitely draw some calls. He'll flop around a little bit here and there, or he'll have a kind of cynical foul on an opponent to stop play, and but he was I saw something, it was like he was like the 10 players in MLS history or something that you would hate, you hate playing against but love having on your team, and he was on that list. And that's where I think he's not going to be a starter. This is going to be a guy that's coming off the bench in kind of crucial situations to maybe maintain a lead or
Love it.
muck the game up a little bit. And I think that's what we're going to see from him. But yeah, I think that's going to be that's probably the last of the business for the off season. And I think, according to the secretive MLS roster rules and all this stuff, apparently there's 2 senior spots left that are still available. And it looks like the club is kind of waiting to get to that summer transfer window before maybe addressing whatever needs might arise over this first half of the season. So it leaves them with some flexibility that they can even sign players before that window, but it leaves them, if they're free agents, leaves them with some flexibility to kind of adjust needs as the season goes along. So, but I think this team's ready for the season opener. Preseason truly got underway last night in Houston. And this was a team, Houston finished below Austin in the standings last year. Not to say Austin was very much higher up than them in the table, but teams that both have tried to address specific needs. And this was an interesting chance to see where Austin looked against one of its nearest opponents in the standings. God, did they look like they were on a completely different level from Houston. The Dynamo looked, before we get into how good Austin looked, the Dynamo looked like they are probably on pace to finish bottom of the West again. That is not a good team. Not at all. And that's where, but the difference is Austin just looks so much better. They looked much more improved from the addition we saw last year. The starting 11 wasn't all that different. It was, you had Kip Keller, the draft pick, the number 5 overall draft pick, who we've talked about how amazing that he fell to Austin. He started last night next to Cascante, and he looked dominant. He looked really, really, really good. And I think until Ruben Gabrielson gets to Austin, once the visa issues clear, that was one of the big signings this offseason. I wouldn't be surprised. It sounds like Keller's going to be the guy starting on opening day.
Yeah.
Next to Cascante. Romagna and Kleeman came on for the second half. Romagna looked improved. He looked better than he did last season, at least in terms of his decision making and on the ball. He looked good. Kleeman did not look good. I wouldn't be surprised if Kleeman sent out on loan again. this year. So you're basically looking at your rotation of somehow Cascante, Keller, Gabrielson, and Romagna. Those are going to be your 4 center backs.
Yeah. So and for me, it's can this defense that let in over 50 goals last season, can you sort of find a way to patch that together? And Keller, on the day of the draft, I remember the fact that he fell to number 5. This was a guy that was considered to be one of the, could have gone in 1 or 2, depending on what mock drafts you were looking at, and to fall all the way to 5 to a team in Austin FC that its biggest concern was defense, specifically central defender. To be able to find that guy and to plug him in right away, and to see the way that he's been able to just immediately take to the professional game, to the MLS type of game. Again, it was against Houston. That Houston, they're not going to be great at all, but that's what you're supposed to do against bad teams.
That's what Austin struggled with last season.
Yes.
This team looked really, God, they destroyed Kansas City there at the end of the season. Like, this team looked great at times against better competition, but it was against the lower competition that they just didn't seem to figure it out. Last night, they looked like a team that's, I don't want to say figured it out. It is preseason, all the caveats that come with that.
Yeah.
But you could definitely sense, the word cohesiveness is just what I was thinking of the entire night. With the sense, like, you can definitely tell, and I think we've mentioned this before, to not discount the effect of the pandemic on this team's inaugural season. This was a group of players that didn't get to spend much time together at all in the preseason and leading up to the opening of last season, even during the season, during lockdowns and whatever kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like this, they weren't going out together. They weren't spending time with each other's families. They weren't doing all these things that teams do. And they have been doing that. And you could see that on the pitch last night in terms of their comfort level of where each other was. There was times, Nick Lima was drifting off into the midfield to help cover for stuff and then getting back. Like, there's just a different level of awareness. And special shout for friend of the show, Danny Pereira, who, with the signing of Johan Valencia, I think a lot of people have made the assumption that Danny Pereira is going to be outside of the starting 11 in that midfield, because you think Alex Ring just got transitioned into a designated player spot. You kind of have to think Ring is his starting role in the midfield secure, but you don't sign Johan Valencia to not have him start. Pereira staked his claim last night. And as you've mentioned before, the signings that they made in this midfield allow Pereira to get forward a little bit more. And what he did on the third goal, setting it up for Alex Ring, like the dribbling to the box and then just dishing it off for the shot and finish. Like, you're starting to, as we talked about with football recruiting, you're stacking depth, you're stacking talent, and you let these guys compete it out. And if someone's on the outside looking in that starting 11, you've got them on the bench, and you've got better talent now to bring in and provide support.
You're going to need all those guys at some point in the season anyway. You guys are going to get nicked up. Guys are going to need a rest. All these guys are going to contribute. Excuse me. Pereira, I feel like, is going to be a guy that Josh Wolf's not going to be able to keep off the field very long.
I agree.
For long stretches of time, even if you have Valencia and Ring as sort of the central mids, I feel like they'll find a way to get Pereira on the wing or something like that, and get him time there, because just what he brings with his speed, his creation, his ability is it's too valuable not to be on the field. And I don't think you take that guy, number one, to not have him be a core part of what you're doing moving forward, especially with the development that this team has experienced, like you said, being able to actually be a team. We talked last year about it being an expansion season, and there were expectations going into last year. And I think maybe in a regular type of a setting, where you got to have all the practices, you got to have all the time together. You got to, maybe Austin FC could have met some of those expectations that were set, those high expectations set for an expansion team. Now that we've seen they've got a whole season, and this is relatively the same roster, like you were saying. This is there aren't too many people that are going to contribute regularly on this club this year that weren't already in that lineup last year. So,
Well,
I mean,
I'd say Valencia is probably the one. And
yeah, but that, I mean, honestly, you got Keller in the back and you got Valencia in your midfield. Outside of that, like, you know, you lose a guy like Pochettino, like who's out on loan, like, but that's somebody that got a lot of minutes
yeah, but
last
wasn't,
year.
yeah, I get what, yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
exactly.
But now you have a club that has played well together, or that has grown together, that's starting to play well together, that's actually starting to gel after a full off season, after, you know, feeling themselves out. You got guys getting used to everything. And now you look at this season in year 2, I feel like Josh Wolf's shortcomings as a manager will be, if he's not improving as a manager, we're going to notice it. It's going to be even more glaring. It's going to be even more glaring to us this season if he can't find a way to pull the right strings, because you're really running out of time in terms of, okay, you've got this club, they've spent this time together, you've got some new signings, you've got depth now at pretty much every position, whereas you didn't have that depth last year. I mean, there were some guys that stepped in different roles. But, you know, Nick Lima was somebody for me that I was down on for a while early on in the season. And as he got more used to playing with some of these guys and knowing what he could and couldn't do, you know, like I got on him a couple of times for not getting back and defending. Well, maybe in his mind, he felt like, I'm confident enough that I should be able to go up here and that I know that these guys are going to cover me. And maybe it wasn't happening. We talk about the central defense being an issue last year. And like that, to me, I feel like it's almost like Lima was playing like he had guys that he could be confident in. And in reality, you know, we're looking at a team right now that now maybe we're looking at, you know, if Keller is going to be able to come back and cover for Lima on a wing, you know, on a outside on the defense and rotate around. And if you start to see that, if we see the best of Nick Lima this season, that's going to be, to me, he's the guy to watch in that back. It's not Keller, because he's going to be solid. Like, I think we're going to get great play out of him. And I think the central defense is going to turn into what was sort of a net negative. And I think that's going to turn into, at worst, just flat. This is going to be a solid central defense.
Serviceable, functional
word.
defense. It's not going to, this is not going to be one of the best. This isn't going to be one of the best defenses in MLS, but
no,
if it's better than last season,
right,
given the additions on the attacking side that happened late last season with Driussi and Gite coming in, and now you've got Max Arruti, who he was a guy that impressed me last night as well with just his movement off the ball. And he's kind of a classic poacher. Man. He got the tap-in goal last night after a good, you know, I think it was Fagundes that made the run into the box and put the ball over. But like, they're starting to figure that out. And if they're going to score more goals than they did last season, I think that's going to be a given. But if you can tighten everything back up on the defensive end, those points start to shift. And then you do start talking about being in that playoff race. And, you know, it's exciting there, but you know, there's one more preseason game left to go this coming Wednesday against Atlas, which is, I mean, the defending champs in Mexico. This is probably not going to see their best lineup. You know, it's a friendly, but it's still a way to gauge where you're at. I think this is going to be another, similar to the Dynamo game, a dress rehearsal. I think you're going to see, you know, the starting 11 that night will probably be pretty close to what the starting 11 was against Houston, and probably pretty close to what the starting 11 is going to be against Cincinnati on opening day. And yeah, we'll see. I would like them to get Gabrielson on site. I'd like to get him in camp and go ahead and try to get him working, because we talk about that defense. If he's a guy that could take Cascante's job, which Cascante's had his moments, but he's, you know, he's a known commodity at this point. You know what you're going to get with him. But if Gabrielson can take his job, that means that Gabrielson's done enough to justify the signing, and that you look at someone like him and Keller on that back line with Romagna as a way to kind of shift in there. And then you've got Cascante as cover. Now you're really talking about having, some legit depth back there. And so I'd like to get those visa issues worked out. It shouldn't be too difficult, and get him in and get him match fit and ready to go.
For a club that likes to play out of the back, you can't just, it's not just playing out of the back on a goal kick or on it starts in the regular play. Like, this starts being able to play out of the back. It starts with the defending, and then you play out of the back from there. It's not just, oh, well, we gotta, we threw it in and then we're doing this and we're bouncing. No, like, it starts with that consistent backline play. And then you build up, and with the attacking options that are there now, the ones that have been there for a year playing with each other, the additions that have been made. You've mentioned Urruti being like a poacher. Like, there's nothing, like, I know you didn't mean that as a negative either.
No,
like, you've
this is
got
what
to
this
have
team
guys.
is needed.
Exactly. Like, you got to have, like, when you think of like the classic poachers, like a Harry Kane, like, who just always seems to be in the right place at the right time. I mean, Kane's super talented, but like, and I hate to say that, but like, he's the guy that, when you think about, for me, when I think about a poacher that's just in the right place, that's going to score goals, you got to have guys like that if you're going to be a top level club. And Urruti brings that. And again, I don't know how often, if he's going to be a guy that's going to be in that rotation super regularly. Again, you're building depth. You've got to have guys that can just pop in and play. Okay, this isn't working out. 70th minute, let's plug this guy in and see if we can work some magic and get a goal and either, salvage a point out of it or get 3 points out of it. And that's going to be the difference this season for me is Wolf making adjustments as a manager, pulling those right strings, because now there's not really an excuse for not having the depth coming off the bench to make those adjustments in game.
Exactly.
If you need to make them. So, it's going to be great, man. Like, I'll be there for that Cincinnati match. We'll be there front row behind the goal. It's going to be a good one. And I'm just hoping for, you look at the way that this club has gone, the way that it's being run. Everything has been top notch so far, except the overall production on the pitch. That's the next step here as a club, as a franchise. Can Josh Wolf make that start to happen in the second season of existence, in his second season? He's a young head coach, man. And that's, some people, I feel like we just, he's the manager. He should be able, he's young. He's still learning who he is as a manager. But he doesn't have a ton of time, in my opinion.
It's a results business.
And figure this out. So if you see Austin FC make a playoff run this year, then you got to feel good about Wolf and his development as a manager. And honestly, he's not going to have too many excuses not to be there at the end of the season with the amount, unless something just goes horribly wrong, injury wise or whatever. Like, this club, with the amount of depth and talent that is currently on it right now, it should be competing for one of those, at least for one of those last playoff spots this season. And they're shooting for it, man. And
absolutely.
And they should feel good about that. And when you have the best, one of the players voted it the second best environment to play in the league. And half the damn league didn't even play in Austin last year. One entire conference basically didn't even show up, and it still was chosen by the players as the second best environment to play in the whole league. When you have that type of home field environment, and you can, you feel good about getting 3 points every time you step out at home, that's when you start to develop as a club and people start to take you seriously. And I think we're going to see some of that this year. And there's good things coming for this club, I feel. There's reason for optimism. This fan base is already rabid as it is. And I just feel like that's going to keep on this year. And we're going to see some good stuff out of this club.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. I think it's going to be a year of progress. I think but yeah, there's not a lot of excuses built in as of right now, like you said. So we'll see how this goes. Got got to get results, but hey, you got to build it as well. So, well, man, I think that's about all we got for today. I think good show. Yeah, everybody enjoyed the big game today, brought to you by the National Football League and USAA and Domino's and whoever, what other list of, NFL sponsors are sponsoring the big bowl end of year championship game, the big bowl.
That is also super. So The Rock is going to have a microphone in his hand on the field today for something. I believe it's pregame. The most electrifying man in all of entertainment, as he's known.
All of entertainment.
I am looking forward to that. Do you even know who's singing the national anthem?
I don't have the slightest idea.
But the halftime show for me.
Yeah, the halftime show is going to be great.
Like, this is not a bathroom break, people. Sit your butt down and enjoy this halftime show. I feel like you got to start off with California Love, with where the game's being played. I feel like that's going to be the first song played. But we're going to see, the halftime show is going to be great. The Rock's going to have the mic in his hand at some point. Like, sit down, enjoy it. And
are we going to get a Tupac hologram to do Hit 'Em Up towards the end of the
Hit 'em up. Oh, I hope not.
God, that would be great.
Oh man, I was gonna say the opening line to that one, but we've cussed enough on this show already.
Imagine all the calls into the FCC from these parents. Oh my God, it's like when the whole Janet Jackson thing happened. Like, who actually calls? Like, I've never figured that part out.
I think you know who calls.
Well, I know, but like that's. I'm gonna pick up the phone and call the FCC to complain about what I just saw on a Super Bowl halftime show instead of taking the time to just explain to my kid what just happened. So I'm going to call and complain.
The Super Bowl halftime show is advertised as for Black people and Eminem, which, okay, there's going to be some phone calls.
Is that Pepsi's official?
No matter what.
Is that Pepsi's official, like
the billing
marketing
for
line
Black
on
people
this?
and Eminem?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, but for reasons that we will not get into right now, I do feel like there will be some phone calls made by certain demographics due to the content of the halftime show.
Absolutely.
And don't be surprised to see our guy Snoop light it up on stage tonight too.
It's legal.
But, yeah.
It's legal in California.
Yep. And
they're living in the future over there.
Yeah, they are. Wow, what a concept. What a concept.
Maybe I'll call in and complain. That's illegal to be doing that on my television.
What are they doing? How am I supposed to explain that to my kids? Well, be a parent. Let's not go down that. Let's call it.
No, let's end it there. Let's end it there before we.
Let's end it, man.
Yeah. Well, everybody have fun out. Everybody just have a good time out there today. Have fun. Go 1-0 today.
Go 1-0 today. Do it. You can do it.
Happy early Valentine's to you all. That's right.
Boom, boom, boom. Right there.
That's
Happy
right.
Valentine's Day.
Get your
Thanks
Hallmark cards. Get your chocolates.
Yeah, get your flowers, whatever. Y'all be good. Thanks again for watching. Appreciate you guys. We'll catch you on the flip. Hook off.
See y'all.
ATX representing. Fatal, baby.